Good Saturday afternoon. It's me, Lala. I'm back. I'm going to talk to you today about marriage love because we've been talking. Now, don't turn it off. I know everybody has their strong opinion, but many people have been really beaten up by marriage talk, and I don't want you to be one of those. So hang tight. I just want to point out that we've talked about lust, we've talked about true love, we've talked about pure love, we've talked about vulnerability, all of the things that are a part of walking in maturity of Christ, in the maturity of Christ. And this, if you are not married, that's okay. This still applies. So the first thing I want to do is just, if you are married, God bless you. And if you're not, same to you. All right, the church has gotten so religious, and the enemy has gotten in and brought so much shame, guilt, condemnation to people over marriage that it's working against the heart of God. You've got to hear the heart of God in it. Okay, sometimes we have these ideas, especially in as believers. That's who I'm addressing primarily. And if you're not a believer, private message me or whatever, and let's get in touch and let's see that happen. But so many times in the church, within each other, we set these impossible standards, just like the feasts or the laws or the Pharisees did back in the day. We understand, we say, okay, this is God's heart, so here are the rules that we will follow to keep us in line with God's heart. And we're missing it when we do that. I remember getting the revelation that I was actually a good wife. It really did change everything for me. I cried. I was like, I'm not that bad. But I had so many standards, and I heard so many other people put standards out there about what a good wife looks like, that I knew I could never reach it, and it was discouraging. All right, and so I looked differently after getting the revelation that I'm trying, I'm moving forward, I am a good wife. There are a lot of things I don't do well, but I'm doing them, and I'm growing, and I'm getting better. So if you are not hitting the mark, ask yourself, is this God's mark, or is this religion's mark, or is this a mark that I've set too high for myself? Okay, and women, yes, hear me. The man is the spiritual leader of your house, all right? But leave him alone. Let them lead from God's heart, not 10 books you've read on what it should look like. Cliff and I do not look like the picture of what you think a marriage should look like. And we're constantly growing. We've been married almost 25 years, and we're still babies compared to some of those saints that have been married for a long, long time. But we have learned a few things along the way. And one of those things is, women, quit wearing the man out, accusing them and agreeing with the accuser of the brethren, saying, you're supposed to be the spiritual leader of our house. Yes, they are. They already are. It's not they're supposed to be. They're doing it. But maybe, just maybe, it doesn't look like what religion says it should look like. Okay? And once Cliff and I realized that we were both fulfilling our roles without such guilt and shame and condemnation of, it's got to look like this. I mean, there was nothing I could say that would stress Cliff out more than, you're the spiritual leader. And he's like, what if he had countered with that and said, well, you're supposed to be the Proverbs 31 woman? Well, guess what? We both already were. And we were striving, because we're in Christ, we were striving so hard to reach something that God had already given us. Now, we have not reached the fullness of it by a long shot. But just let yourself off the hook a little bit from religion, actually all the way from religion. One of my favorite stories about us and how we don't look like what it's supposed to look like, but God is all over us. And we're rolling. And yes, Cliff is the tiebreaker in our house. He gets 2 votes and I get 1, ultimately. But we are a team. We talk about it together. But if we come to an impasse and I'm like, well, okay, it's got to be your call. I've laid out how I feel about it. I've talked to you clearly. But ultimately, It's on you. I promise he gives it another look when I'm like, okay, the responsibility is yours. And I'm not being manipulative in that. I'm just going, okay, well, here's where we are. So you make the call. Oh, guess what? He is so open to hearing why I think other things, and he seeks the Lord and he searches it out. Or he just trusts me enough to go, what do you think? You're the one that's all in it, especially with our children and like the education, particularly when we homeschooled. He'd say, you know what? You're in this. I trust your heart. What are you hearing? Okay, I have peace on that. And Cliff is not nearly as religious as I used to be, and probably never will be. And he just follows the Spirit, and I have to see chapter and verse and why, and go through Deliverance over it and argue myself into it. And it used to irritate me. I'd be like, you just believe it? Don't you need me to tell you why? He's like, no, that's right. That resonates with my spirit. I'm like, really? That's it? Okay. And he's usually dead on. But one of my favorite stories about us is how we get tickled about how we aren't your picture of what it generally looks like. And one of the best times was when I was out throwing football passing routes with our oldest son, and I don't know where our oldest daughter was, but then he comes out and has the baby on his hip with curtains on this side, curtains or just the whole draperies to our bedroom on this side, and he's like, now where did you want me to hang these? And we just kind of looked at each other, and I dropped the football, and he looked at the baby, and he looked at the draperies, and we just got tickled, and we were like, what is wrong with us? But you know what? We were both doing something we were really good at, and I'd picked the draperies. Don't worry, ladies. I'd chosen them. And I got them all, but they were the kind that had this hard hook, and they were heavy, and he was just putting them up for me. But in that moment, we just laughed because we were like, wow, we do not fit the picture. But do you know what? We're tearing it up because we in the kingdom, we're doing, not in a bad way, we are learning to love each other as Christ loved the church. I am learning to show more and more respect to him, and he's learning to show more respect to me. Submission for me, I'd gotten beaten over the head with it so much. I thought it meant, this is what I thought it meant, that I had to be soft-spoken and like things that were calm and really like to do more domestic things. Now, I love domestic things, but not when it's crammed on me. And I'm not a quiet person, and I was not made to be. Now, I'm more discerning than I used to be. I am quieter, which is a good thing, but I was trying to cram myself into this mold of what submission meant. And it's really just grace under fire and trusting who you're submitted to and who you're with. And this can happen for any authority in your life. It doesn't have to be your husband. What about your boss? What about your spiritual leaders? Are they trustworthy? Then it's not so hard to submit. It's not like, woman, submit, right? And so I hope that will free you up a little bit, that you are already exemplifying Christ in the church. It may just be in an infant stage, and it is a mystery. We don't get it all, but we do know that when you're in it for the long haul, you say, we're in it for the long haul. And I'm going to tell you, there have been times that we have been close to just, you know what, we might be better off apart. No lie. And for those of you who have been through a divorce or in a separation or more than one divorce, man, can I bring you some peace too? It's not the end of the world. It doesn't disqualify you. All right, you're blessed, you're loved. Please be healed and be honored, and know that, yeah, things didn't work out how you wanted them to, and maybe it was your fault. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's some of both. It doesn't matter. It does not disqualify you. You're not second place. You're not a bench warmer. You're not a second choice either. You can give all you've got to give. If it were up to that, if it was a checking the box and a list of are you worthy, then none of us would make it. I definitely would fall under the realm at different times of being the, I don't know, Proverbs 32, maybe that's a terrible warning wife, right? I've not always made it, but I know Christ in me is always working that out in me. He's always working out my communication in my marriage, my love, my time, And I promise nobody has taken Cliff Caldwell to the cross more than I have. I have been the Lord's best tool in his life to make him cry out to God, right? Because I know I'm not easy to live with, but I'm changing and we're growing and we do love each other more and are communicating more. We're getting better at everything. And some of it we started below the line negative on, right? But God is working that out in us. And so don't let there be a look for you on being married or what you're supposed to look like. Do not let shame, guilt, and condemnation wear you out. Say, yes, praise God, we are in that, and we are a picture of it. We're just another picture of what it looks like in Jesus in perfection, and what it looks like to be working out your salvation with fear and trembling, working on all of these ways to learn to love. That is the point. And it is a covenant, and it's a beautiful covenant, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm just saying quit being so hard on yourself. Quit accusing the one that you have given your heart to, you're one with. Say, okay, so why are we one? Okay, remember when Adam, the Lord took half of him out. Okay, so that's why when you come together, you're one. Right? He didn't take a rib out. That's a weird translation. Okay, because and this is a unique thing, but think when God made Adam, he made him with all of the genetic material for women and man. And guess what? Where the woman part came from? God. Remember, God's not a man that he should lie. Yes, he refers to himself as Father, but he also refers to himself as El Shaddai, the many-breasted one, the God of more than enough. He loves mother. God has a mothering heart. All right, he didn't have to go, well, I'm only a dude. I guess I'm going to have to make this other part up. No, it's still the heart of God. And it's an important nurturing part, right? He is the fullness, and we are all growing up into that. And so I hope by reading the words below, by our wonky, not tidy, messy, but beautiful testimony, it is encouraging you to lighten up on yourself a little bit and lighten up on your spouse. And if you've not found that spouse yet, then be prepared to be easy on them. And if you may never have a spouse, then be easy on the church, be easy on those around you, and be easy on yourself. All right, God will convict you, no problem there, but do not listen to the voice of the accuser against yourself, and definitely don't let it come from your lips. Don't speak for the enemy. He's doing enough on his own against your family. All right, well, I hope that blesses you, and please remember to like, share, check us out on YouTube, buy this book. That would be a big help to all the projects we'd like to accomplish, and I guess release that Revy.